Hi, good afternoon, everyone, and a warm welcome to you all and to Woodside Park Shul. We are delighted and honored to be hosting this US Kabbalat Shabbat, and we very much look forward and extend an invitation to welcome each and every one of you to our vibrant, dynamic community in the not too distant future. You know, friends, one of the questions that sports buffs like myself always seem to grapple with is the question as to who was or who is the GOAT, the greatest of all time in each respective sport. It's something that many are passionate about and they argue vociferously for hours on end. Consider boxing. Who was the greatest? Muhammad Ali? Was it Marciano? Was it Sugar Ray? The debate rages across the course of time. Similarly, in football, the question is asked, was it Pele, Maradona, Messi? Everyone has their own opinion. And in debating this great question, many wonder the only way to resolve this issue is to transpose each sport's personality to the other era and to see how they would fare better or worse with the challenges of the modern game. That question seems to be the question which is grappling and perplexing some of the greatest minds in relation to our Parsha. We're told in this week's Torah portion, Parashat Noach, that Noach, Eile told us Noach, these are the generations of Noach. Noach ish tzaddik. Noach was righteous. Tamim haya b'dorasav. He was perfect in his generation. That one statement has caused tremendous debate and dispute, and there are two schools of thought. The statement that Noach was a righteous person is unquestioned. That's what the verse says. But the added word of generation, he was great in his generation, is the cause of tremendous discussion. Was he great only in his generation, or was he great despite his generation? And we find in the Talmud both views. On the one hand, there are some that say that Noach was great despite his generation. He had such tremendous challenges, such a degenerate generation that ultimately were destroyed for their corruption. Had he been in the generation of somebody like Abraham, he would and could have been even greater. On the other hand, there is a second school of thought that sees this statement of praise of Noach in a rather derogatory fashion. Noach was great in his generation, in comparison to those that he was living with. He was head and shoulders above the degenerates, above the corrupt generation. But had he been in a greater generation like Abraham's, he never would have been able to stand up. He would have been seen as somebody quite ordinary. It's difficult. I've always struggled with the second school of thought. That school of thought that seems to see Noach in a rather negative, critical perspective, seeing Noach as not as great as we make him out to be, because of those that he surrounded himself with, because of the generation which he found himself in. How do we understand that view? The verse says that he was righteous. Let me share with you a little story about Yankel of Pinsk. Yankel of Pinsk, he was a schlepper. He was seen as a nobody. And one day he managed to make it to the land of opportunity, the Golden Medina. He made it to America and decides that he wants to rid himself of his past and he wants to start over again. So he manages to get together the funds and he goes and buys the killer outfit, the best suit, the most expensive shoes, a beautiful hat. And he makes his way into Fifth Avenue Shul and he decides to sit in the front row. He decides that now is his chance to start over again and make a name for himself as somebody of significance. All's going well, and all of a sudden it comes to the Kriyat HaTorah, the laning, and they ask, is there anyone here who is a Kohen? Looking around, no one puts up their hand. And of course, Yankel wants to make a good impression. He says, listen, I'm starting again. Why not? He puts up his hand, says, yeah, I'm a Kohen. So they call him up, Yankel the Kohen. Finishes, comes down, does the lap of honor, goes back to his place in the front row. At the end of the service, everyone is expected to make their way over and to give Geshabbos to the rabbi. So he goes over to the rabbi, and all of a sudden, the rabbi lowers his glasses. Says, Yankel, is that you? Said, yes, it's me. And of course, the rabbi was also from Pinsk. He said, wow, you've done so well for yourself, Yankel. Look at you. You got the best suit, sitting in the front row in Fifth Avenue. You've made it. That's incredible. But you know, I've got one question that was bothering me during the prayers, during the service. I noticed that you got called up as a Kohen. And I've known your family for generations. I knew your grandfather, I knew your father, and none of them were Kohanim. So how comes you all of a sudden became a Kohen? Yankel smiled and he says, listen, this is the land of opportunities, America. I came into the shul and I noticed that you are the rabbi. If you can be a rabbi in America, then I can be a Kohen in America. Let's return now to the question that we asked. How do we understand Noach? It seems that we are critical of him. And in fact, it's quite the opposite. Rav Schneerson suggests a majestic understanding of the second school of thought. Noach, in fact, was a very special person. He was a true mensch. It's true he wasn't on the level of Abraham. He never would have been able to stand up and be a person of such stature like Moses or like Abraham. But nonetheless, that doesn't take away from the fact that he was somebody who stood up to the challenges of his time. He was able to swim against the tide, to stand up to the challenges of the immorality and the decadent culture in which he was living. And for that is the mark of a great man. And therefore, he was a righteous person in his generation. We aren't expected to be more than we can be, but we are expected to be who we are supposed to be. And each and every one of us, despite being or feeling like Noach, that we may not be the greatest of the great, the best of the best, Noach is an indication, an inspiration to the average person, the normal person, that we can make a difference. Noach was able, through being a mensch, to save humanity. And therefore, in the same way that he was able to save the world, it's up to each and every one of us in our own way to make our own unique contribution to humanity, to save the world and build the world in the best way that we can. Friends, we are now going to move on to singing our way into the Shabbat. And I'd like to invite you to make and to write your comments in the comments section. Share with us where you're going to be joining us from, and perhaps any particular memories or foods that you love when it comes to your particular Shabbat. Shabbat is all about a transition. Kabbalat Shabbat is about making that transition from the ordinary to the extraordinary, leaving behind the concerns of the week and moving on to hopefully focusing on what is truly important to each and every one of us, to our family and to our faith, and making that move from the mundane to the sublime. And now we'd like to call upon our new assistant rabbi, Rabbi Yitzy Blachman, with his beautiful voice to be able to lift our spirits, inspire us as we sing our way into the Shabbat.
Hi all. We'll start now the Kabbalat Shabbat with the prayer of Yedid Nefesh. It's in the Green Center, page 256. Yedid Nefesh Avarachaman Meshoch Avdecha רצונך. ירוץ עבדך כמו אייל, ישתחווה אל מול דרך, ירב לך ידידו אסך. מנבא באפס ובכל תורם, אדוני זיו העולם. נפשי חולת אהבתך, אנא אלה רפנה לו, בהערות לו נועם זיווך, אז תתחזק ותתרפא, והייתה לה שמחת העולם, וסיק אמונה ירא חמך בחוסנה על בן אהובך. כי זה כמה נחשפתי לירס בספרס עוזך, אליך עמדה ליבי וחוסנה, ואל תסלם יגאלנה. היה יפרויס חביבי עלי יסוכס שלא ימך, תאיר ארץ מכבודך, נגילה ונשמחה בך, ומהר כי במועד וחבבננו כימי עולם. תילי לילה 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 לכו נרננה לאדוני נוריה לצמור ישנו, נקדם אפניו בסום ידו, בזמירה אסנוריה לו, כי אל גודל הדין ודבייסורים אשר כי הוא אלה
40 שנה כוד בדאו והוי מרמתו ילב ובהם והם לא ידעו דרכו אשר נשבעתי באפי אם יבואו נבל מנוחסי שירו לדייני שיהיה חדש שירו לדייני כל הארץ שירו לדייני ברכו שמי בסור מיום ליום ישוע סוי ספרו בגויים כבודו בכל העמים נפלא ויסר כי יגאם אדוני לאדוני אינו ימולו ביד הנה בבא אלוהי על כל אלוהים כי כל אלוהי ימים ולי לי ועבד בינה בשמיים עשו הוואי ביום אדון ופניו וספרס במקדשו יבוא לאדוני משפחה אסמים יבוא לאדוני כבבדייס יבוא לאדוני כבבית שמי שיהיו מנחם ובבוא לחצר עשיו ישתחוו לאדוני ויד רסקה ידש חילו מלפניו כל הארץ אמרו בגויים אדוני מלך אהבתי כל תבל בעלתי מויס ידי ינעמי בימי שערים ישמחו השמיים וסוגל הארץ ירם היום ומלאי יעלוי סודי וכל אשר בבוא אבא זרעננו כל הציור לפני אדוני קיבוי לשפוע את הארץ ישפוע את תבל בצדק ועמים במובנסי אדוני מלך סוגים כי אתה אדוני אליהו ובוין על כל אורץ מיוד נעלי יסו על כל אלו בבוין אוהבי אדוני יסיינו ברא שוי מנפשו עשר חסידיו מיד רשויים יצילם אחזור על הצדיק ולישרי לב שמחו צדיקים באדוני ויאמר בבואתו לזה בברכי כבוד השם מזמור של אדוני בחצות רויז לכל השפר יהיו לפני המלך אדוני ירם היום ומלואי תבל ויואש ויבוא נערי שמחה וברכה יחד הורים ירננו לפני אדוני כיבוי לשפוע את הארץ ישפע תבל בצדק ועמים במישורים אדוני מלך עם מוישה ויערון וחבובו ינו היו שמואל בקובובו ירא שמוי קוראים אליו אדוני Ve'obobo yanem. Join me. Ba'amodanan yedaber aleim. Shomru eda Yisrael. Ve'chababoy k'nosan lanu. Adonai Eloheinu. Hatovani Yisrael. El noiseo Yisraelohem. V'noyekem al alilo esom. Ra'ememu. Adonai Eloheinu. V'ishtachavu le'Abba Kotshoi. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu miyizmai le'david avol Adonai bnei elim avol Adonai kerevoid ve'ois Avoladoy keveva ichemoy ishtach volavadaboy beyavadas koyedesh ay kovoy ladoy avalamayim evelakovoy yirim avadoy Aval mayim rabbi kovoy ladoy bava kovoyach koy ladoy beweya bavado koy ladoy shover agazim ay vayshaber adoy yes azay alvanon vayakidem Kemo yewegel levanon v'siyon Kmo v'gmen yewemim Kovoy ladoynoi Chotz l'avoyshesh Kovoy ladoynoi Yovo v'chil midbar Yovo v'chil ladoynoi Mi yidbar kodesh Ay Kovoy ladoynoi Yechoy le'layovoloy Zoyechzoy Yogoy subechalai, kuvavalai, abababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababababab Lawa mabule yobo bosho, vayeshev adayna boboboy, melech le'olam, Adonai ois, le'avav Adonai yevorech, Esamo yebashalom. Ilevevechad oyedi likras kalo pene shabababas avaboine kabelo. Join levevechad oyedi likras kalo Perevene Shabbos Avaboine Kabelo Ayaya Ishama Vezavachai Vedibo Evechadi Shmiano Evelam Yovuchad Adavayna Evechad Uvarosh Mayevechad Leveshem ולסיפרס וליסיל עליו בבחד הידי לקראת קלו. פני שבת סבוי נקבלו. היי לקראת שבת לבכו ונברככים וכל ברווחה מראש מכבדם נבבסו וחסה בבויף מה ועשה במחשב תחילה לבך דו ידי לקראת קלו. פני שבת סבוי נקבלו. איי מקדש מבלך יאיר מלוך קומי צאי מתוך חפך רב לך שבז בימי כבוך חברו יחמול ולא יחם לא לבך דו ידי לקראת קלו. פני שבת סבוי נקבלו. איי סנוורים יפקו מלבשי בגדי ספרתך עמי על יד בן ישי בייס הלך מקרבו ולנפשי הגיע לו אליך דו ידי לקראת קלו. פני שבת סבוי נקבלו. יסיירי כי יבא אברך קרבו מאורי אורי שייר דבר ויקרבוד אדוני אמולה יכני גללך דו ידי לקראת קלו. פני שבת סבוי נקבלו. Ayelawa esevoshi velosiko volmi Rimawa batishtoy khachi umatemi Bach yechesu ani yami venivneso Yeralti la elwewe chadavavadi likras kawalo Pene shawabos Hoy nekabelo elecha doedi likras kalo Pnei Shabbos nekabelo V'yayu limshisa Shabbat v'soyich V'rachaku kol mevaloyich Yasis alayich Hevevelavayich Kim sois chason awal kalo Vo'ele v'chadaydi Ha'eli yikras kalo B'nei Shabbos nekabelo L'chadaydi yikras kalo B'nei Shabbos nekabelo Yominu small tifloitzi Yes Adayna et aritzi Yavavavavali yavadish Beven patzi Venismecha venagila Lechadoedi Likras kalo Pene Shabbos, Pene Shabbos, Nekabelo.
Shkech Rabbi Yitzy, that was absolutely magnificent. On behalf of everyone who's watching, thank you so much for lifting our spirits, inspiring us, and getting us ready to welcome the Shabbat. I think it's almost time for us to welcome and open the doors to our community. So we take the opportunity to wish each and every one of you and your families a Shabbat Shalom, a good Shabbos. Have a wonderful weekend, and we look forward to welcoming you to our community in the not too distant future. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.